Her billionaire boss caught her on a blind date. Then he whispered, "Why didn't you ask me instead?" To her, it was just a harmless blind date. Just dinner, just a way to move on. Until the restaurant door opened and her billionaire boss walked in. Her heart pounded furiously. He was never meant to see her like this. Vulnerable, hopeful, pretending she hadn't been thinking about him. He didn't interrupt. He didn't embarrass her. He leaned in, close enough for only her to hear, and murmured, "Why didn't you ask me instead?" In that moment, everything changed. Because while some dates are accidents, some emotions are never truly unseen. Before we continue, if you enjoy interesting billionaire romance stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like and comment what city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. They say you never forget the moment your life splits in two. For Naomi Hart, it happened on a Wednesday evening in October, in an Italian restaurant that smelled of rosemary and regret, over a plate of pasta she never got to finish. The man sitting across from her was named Derek. He was an investment banker with kind eyes and a tendency to laugh at his own jokes. He'd been talking about his recent trip to Switzerland for the past 10 minutes, and Naomi had been nodding politely, genuinely trying to care about alpine hiking trails she would never visit. It wasn't that Derek was boring. He was perfectly pleasant, accomplished, exactly the kind of man her best friend Jenna from accounting insisted she needed to meet. The problem was that Naomi didn't feel anything. No spark, no flutter, no electricity that made her forget to breathe. Just pleasant. She was about to suggest they split the check when the restaurant door opened, letting in a rush of cool autumn air and something far more dangerous. Lucas Arden walked in. Time didn't slow down the way it does in movies. It stopped, completely. Naomi's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Her breath caught somewhere between her lungs and her throat. The ambient noise of the restaurant, the soft jazz, the murmured conversations, the clinking of wine glasses, faded into a dull hum. Lucas Arden, her boss, the founder and CEO of Arden Global Enterprises, the man whose office was 3 floors above hers, whose presence commanded entire boardrooms, whose signature on a document could shift markets. The both of them had worked closely in the previous quarter, and she could swore they had a connection, even though his actions said otherwise. She had spent the following weeks waiting for a proposal that never came, and the weeks after trying to get over him. In all honesty, this blind date was part of an elaborate plan by her best friend, Jenna, to get him off her mind by replacing him with another ideal gentleman. But it seems like Lucas had sworn to torment her emotions because here he was, in the very blind date meant to make her forget him. Lucas stood in the doorway of Vetriano's, his tailored charcoal suit fitting him like it had been designed specifically for this moment. His dark hair was slightly tousled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. His expression was unreadable, until his eyes found hers. Then something flickered across his face. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition, or something else entirely that Naomi couldn't name because her brain had temporarily stopped processing complex emotions. Their eyes locked across the restaurant. 3 seconds, maybe 4. It felt like an hour. Derek, oblivious to the seismic shift happening across the table, took another bite of his pasta. "So anyway," he continued, "the view from the top of the Matterhorn was absolutely incredible. Have you ever been to Switzerland?" Naomi didn't answer. She couldn't, because Lucas Arden was walking toward their table. His stride was unhurried, confident. He moved through the restaurant like he owned it, which, for all Naomi knew, he probably did. Lucas had a habit of acquiring things, companies, properties, entire industries. He stopped beside their table, Ms. Hart. His voice was low, controlled. The same voice he used in meetings when he was about to dismantle someone's poorly constructed argument. "I didn't know you frequented Vetriano's." Naomi set down her fork carefully. Her hands were steadier than she expected. Years of maintaining composure in high-pressure corporate environments had trained her well. "Mr. Arden," she kept her tone professional, neutral. I could say the same. Derek looked between them, his fork suspended in mid-air. "Oh, are you two friends?" The pause that followed was heavy enough to have its own gravitational pull. "Colleagues," Naomi said finally. "Yes." Lucas's gaze hadn't left her face. "Colleagues." Derek extended his hand, apparently thrilled to be networking at dinner. "Derek Morrison, investment banking. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Arden." Lucas shook his hand briefly, perfunctorily. "Enjoy your evening." He should have walked away then. Should have continued to his own table, wherever that was. Should have let Naomi return to her perfectly pleasant, perfectly safe blind date. But he didn't. He leaned in, close enough for only her to hear, and murmured, "Why didn't you ask me instead?" Naomi's cheeks flushed, her mouth opened, but she said nothing. "Ms. Hart," Lucas said quietly, "I hope you're enjoying the branzino. It's exceptional here." She blinked. She hadn't ordered branzino. She'd ordered the mushroom risotto, which meant he wasn't making small talk. He was telling her he'd noticed what she'd ordered. He'd been paying attention. "It's very good," she managed. "I thought it would be." Another pause. "Well, I won't interrupt further." He nodded politely to Derek and walked toward a table near the window, but he didn't sit with his back to them. He sat where he could see her, angled, just enough that if she glanced up, their eyes would meet. Naomi did not glance up. Derek launched back into his story about Switzerland, but his words washed over her like background noise. Her entire awareness had narrowed to a single, burning question. What the hell just happened? The rest of dinner passed in a blur. Derek asked for her number. She gave it to him, though she knew she'd never use his. He suggested a second date. She said something non-committal about checking her schedule. He paid for dinner despite her protests, kissed her cheek at the door, and disappeared into the Manhattan night looking pleased with himself. Naomi stood on the sidewalk, clutching her coat closed against the October chill. She should call an Uber. She should go home. She should absolutely not look back through the restaurant window to see if Lucas was still there. She looked back. He was standing in the doorway, holding something in his hand. Her scarf, the burgundy silk scarf she'd draped over her chair and completely forgotten. Her feet carried her back to him before her brain could object. "You left this," Lucas said, extending the scarf. Up close, she could see details she never noticed in the office. The faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the barely there scar along his jawline, the way he looked at her like he was solving an equation he'd been working on for months. "Thank you." She reached for the scarf. Their fingers brushed. Neither of them pulled away immediately. "Nice dinner?" Lucas asked. "It was fine." "Just fine?" Naomi hesitated. In the office, she always knew what to say. She'd built her entire career on being articulate, precise, unshakable. But standing here, outside this restaurant, with Lucas Arden holding her scarf and looking at her like she was the only person on the entire island of Manhattan, every carefully rehearsed professional response evaporated. "He was kind," she said carefully. "Accomplished. Exactly what I should want. Should want." Lucas repeated her words slowly, turning them over like he was examining them for defects. Interesting phrasing. The street was quiet. A taxi passed. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. "I'm still curious. Why didn't you ask me instead?" Lucas asked, staring into her eyes this time. The question hung in the air between them, dangerous and electric. "Ask you what?" Naomi's voice came out steadier than she felt. "To dinner?" Her breath caught. "Because you're my boss. Because it would be complicated. Because you're afraid." She should have denied it. Should have laughed it off, made a joke, rebuilt the professional walls that were currently crumbling around her feet. Instead, she said, Yes. Something shifted in his expression. Not triumph, not satisfaction. Something softer, more human than she'd ever seen from him. I don't do complications, Naomi. He used her first name, not Miss Hart. Naomi. But I also don't do regrets. He handed her the scarf. This time, when their fingers touched, he let his hand linger for just a moment, long enough for her to feel the warmth of his skin, short enough to maintain plausible deniability. Think about it, he said quietly. Then he walked away, disappearing into the night like he'd never been there at all. Naomi stood alone on the sidewalk, her scarf clutched in her hands, her entire world tilted 15 degrees off its axis. She pulled out her phone and typed a message to Jenna. "We need to talk." The reply came instantly. "How was the date?" Naomi stared at her phone, then looked back at the now empty restaurant doorway. "Complicated," she typed. It got complicated. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she lay in her apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every word, every look. Why didn't you ask me? The question echoed in her mind like a bell she couldn't unring. Because he was her boss. Because workplace relationships were messy and dangerous and career-ending. Because she'd spent 5 years building her reputation at Arden Global Enterprises, and she wasn't about to destroy it for a man who probably collected beautiful, intelligent women the way he collected companies. Except the way he'd looked at her hadn't felt like collection. It had felt like recognition, like he saw her, really saw her. Not just the polished professional version she presented at work, but the woman underneath who was tired of being careful, tired of being invisible, tired of should want instead of actually wanting. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. "Sleep well, Naomi." Her heart kicked against her ribs. She stared at the message for a full minute before typing back, "How did you get my number?" His response was immediate. "I'm your boss. Getting your contact has never been a hassle. Despite everything, despite the complications and the fear and the absolute insanity of texting, her boss at 1 a.m. Naomi smiled. "Good night, Lucas," she sent. She set her phone down and closed her eyes, knowing that when Monday morning came, everything would be different. She had no idea how right she was. Monday morning arrived with the kind of bright, cold sunlight that made everything feel sharper than it should. Naomi stood in front of her closet for 20 minutes, which was 19 minutes longer than usual. She told herself she wasn't choosing her outfit with Lucas in mind. She told herself the navy sheath dress and structured blazer were simply professional choices. She was lying to herself, and she knew it. The subway ride to Midtown felt longer than usual. Every stop, every lurching movement of the train gave her more time to second-guess the decision she'd already made. She wasn't going to pursue this, whatever this was. Lucas Arden was her boss, the CEO, the man whose approval could make or break careers. Getting involved with him, even considering getting involved with him, was professional suicide. By the time she swiped her access card at Arden Global Enterprises, she'd convinced herself that Friday night had been an aberration. A moment of temporary insanity brought on by bad wine and good lighting. She would go to her office, dive into the quarterly reports, and forget that Lucas Arden had ever looked at her like she was something other than employee number 4237. The elevator doors opened on the 15th floor. The first thing Naomi noticed was the silence. The morning rush was usually a symphony of noise. Keyboards clacking, phones ringing, conversations overlapping as people caffeinated themselves into productivity. But today, the office had the muffled quality of a library. Or a funeral. The second thing she noticed was the stairs. Amanda from accounting looked up as Naomi passed, then quickly looked away. Marcus from legal suddenly became very interested in his coffee. Even Gerald, the 60-year-old senior analyst who usually greeted everyone with booming enthusiasm, gave her a tight smile and hurried toward the break room. Something was wrong. Naomi's pulse quickened as she walked to her office. She kept her expression neutral, her stride confident. Years of being the only woman in boardrooms full of men had taught her never to show uncertainty. She closed her office door and set her bag down carefully. Her computer was already on. She'd left it running over the weekend. 3 new emails waited in her inbox. The first was from IT about a system update. The second was from Jenna. "Call me now." The third had no subject line. The sender was listed as a friend. Naomi's stomach dropped. She clicked it open. No text, just an attachment. A photograph. Her and Lucas standing outside of Vetriano's. His hand was extended, holding her scarf. The angle made it look intimate, secretive, like they were lovers meeting in the night, rather than colleagues having an awkward coincidental encounter. Below the photo, a single line of text. "Interesting company the boss keeps. Wonder what HR would say." Naomi's hands went cold. She stared at the email, her mind racing through possibilities. Who had taken this photo? Who had sent it? And more importantly, who else had received it? Her office phone rang. She picked it up on the second ring, keeping her voice steady. "Naomi Hart. My office. Now." Lucas's voice was clipped, professional. Then the line went dead. Naomi stood, smoothed her dress, and walked out of her office with her head high. The stairs followed her all the way to the elevator. Lucas's office occupied the entire northwest corner of the 42nd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Manhattan that probably cost more than most people's houses. The decor was minimalist: glass, steel, and leather, in shades of charcoal and cream. Lucas stood with his back to the door, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. "Close the door," he said without turning around. Naomi closed it. The silence stretched for 10 seconds, 15, 20. Finally, Lucas turned to face her. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired that comes from a late night, but the kind that comes from carrying weight no one else can see. "You've seen the email," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. How many people do you think received it? Based on the reactions this morning, most of the 15th floor. Possibly more." Lucas nodded slowly. He moved to his desk but didn't sit. Instead, he leaned against it, arms crossed. The posture was casual, but his expression was anything but. "I want to be very clear about something, Naomi. Nothing happened Friday night that violated company policy. You were on a personal date. I was having dinner. We exchanged pleasantries. That's all. I know. But perception doesn't care about facts." "I know that too." He studied her for a long moment. "Are you worried?" She should have said yes. Should have expressed concern about her reputation, her career, her standing in the company. Instead, she said, "Are you?" Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. "I'm worried about you," he said quietly. Office politics are vicious, especially toward women who are perceived as getting ahead through alternative means. The implication hung in the air like smoke. "I've gotten ahead through my work," Naomi said, her voice sharp. "Through 80-hour weeks and flawless presentations and being better than everyone else in the room. I don't need anyone's protection." "I know you don't." Lucas straightened. "That's not why I'm offering it." "Then why?" He moved closer. Not close enough to touch, but close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and understated, like cedar and winter air. "Because I meant what I said Friday night. I don't do complications, but I also don't do regrets." He paused. "And I would regret it if you were hurt because of me." Naomi's heart was beating too fast. She forced herself to think logically, professionally. "What do you suggest?" "Officially? Nothing. We maintain professional distance. We don't give anyone ammunition." "And unofficially?" Lucas's eyes met hers. "Unofficially, I suggest we find out who sent that email and make them very sorry they did." Before Naomi could respond, his office door opened. They both turned. Marianne Bell stood in the doorway, her expression a perfect mask of professional concern. She was in her early 40s, impeccably dressed in a cream suit that probably cost more than Naomi's monthly rent. As head of corporate communications, Marianne controlled the company's image, and by extension, controlled what people thought about everyone in it. Lucas, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to discuss the situation. What situation? Lucas's voice had gone cold. The email. It's spreading. I've had 3 calls from board members this morning asking about improprieties. Her gaze slid to Naomi. I'm sure it's all a misunderstanding, but we need to get ahead of this. There's nothing to get ahead of, Lucas said flatly. Ms. Hart and I had a coincidental encounter at a restaurant. That's all. Of course. Marianne's smile sharpened. But you know how people talk, especially when it involves a young woman who's been promoted very quickly. She turned to Naomi. You understand, I'm sure. We just need to make sure everything is above board. The subtext was clear. You're the problem. You're the liability. Naomi felt anger flare hot in her chest, but she kept her voice level. Everything I've achieved in this company has been earned through merit. My record speaks for itself. I'm sure it does. Marianne's tone suggested she believed the opposite. Still, it might be best if you kept a lower profile for a while. Just until this all blows over. Marianne, Lucas's voice could have cut glass. Ms. Hart will maintain her current role and responsibilities. If you have concerns about company protocol, take them to HR. But do not, he emphasized each word, suggest that she alter her behavior based on unsubstantiated gossip. Marianne's smile didn't waver, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Of course. I'm just trying to protect the company's interests. The company's interests are served by competent employees doing excellent work, which is exactly what Ms. Hart has been doing. Lucas moved to his desk, a clear dismissal. Was there anything else? No. Marianne glanced at Naomi one more time. I'll let you both get back to work. She left, closing the door with a soft click that somehow felt threatening. The silence that followed was heavy. She sent it, Naomi said quietly. Lucas looked at her sharply. You're sure? No, but I'd bet my career on it. Why would she? Naomi thought about the way Marianne had looked at her, the careful phrasing, the suggestion to keep a lower profile. Because she sees me as a threat, Naomi said slowly. She's been positioning herself as your right hand for years, and lately you've been asking for my input more often, bringing me into strategic meetings, trusting me with sensitive projects, because you're good at your job. I know that, but she doesn't see competence. She sees competition. Lucas was quiet for a moment, processing. Then he nodded. Can you prove it? Not yet, but I will. He studied her, and something shifted in his expression, from concern to something that looked almost like admiration. You're not going to hide, are you? No. Even though it would be easier? I don't do easy. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. I've noticed. Their eyes held. The moment stretched, loaded with everything they weren't saying. Finally, Lucas moved back to the window. Be careful, Naomi. Marianne has more power in this company than her title suggests. She knows where everybody is buried. Then I'll have to make sure she doesn't bury me. Naomi spent the rest of Monday doing exactly what she'd planned, working. She reviewed the quarterly reports. She prepared her presentation for the Wednesday executive meeting. She responded to emails with her usual efficiency. She did not panic. She did not hide. She did not give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her rattled. But she also started digging. During lunch, which she ate at her desk, Naomi pulled up the metadata from the anonymous email. The sender had used a burner account, routed through a VPN. Professional, but not perfect. The email had been sent at 7:47 a.m. on Monday morning. Early, but not suspiciously so. Plenty of people were in the office by then. Naomi cross-referenced the building's access logs. She had friends in facilities management, people who appreciated that she always remembered their names and asked about their kids. 23 people had badged into the building before 7:47 a.m. Naomi eliminated the ones who worked on different floors. That left 8 possibilities. Then she checked the network logs. Another favor, this one from an IT analyst who owed her for fixing a budget error that would have cost him his bonus. Only 3 people on her list had accessed their computers before 7:47 a.m. One was Gerald, the senior analyst. He was 62 and barely knew how to use email, let alone set up a VPN. One was Marcus from legal. Possible, but unlikely. He'd always been friendly, professional. The third was Marianne Bell. Naomi sat back in her chair, staring at her screen. It wasn't proof. Not the kind that would hold up to scrutiny. But it was enough to know she was right. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. "Lunch tomorrow? You need to tell me everything." Naomi smiled despite herself. "Yes, but you're not going to believe it." She texted. Another text came through. This one from the unknown number she had failed to save prior. "You're working late." Naomi looked up. Through her office window, she could see across the building to the northwest corner. Lucas stood at his window, phone in hand, looking directly at her. She picked up her phone and typed, "So are you. Can't stop thinking about Friday night." He sent her breath caught. She should not respond. Should not engage. Should absolutely not encourage whatever this was. She typed, "Me neither." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "Have dinner with me. Thursday. Somewhere no one will see us." Naomi stared at the message for a long time. This was the moment. The choice. The point of no return. She thought about Marianne's cold smile, about the whispers in the office, about years of playing it safe, of being invisible, of being exactly what everyone expected. She thought about Lucas standing outside Vetriano's, asking her a question no one had ever asked before. "Why didn't you ask me?" Naomi took a breath and typed, "Yes." Across the building, she saw Lucas lower his phone. Even from this distance, she could see him smile. "Thursday," he texted back. "I'll send you the address." Naomi set her phone down and returned to her reports, but the words blurred on the screen. She just said yes to having a secret dinner with her billionaire boss while someone was actively trying to destroy her reputation. It was reckless, dangerous, possibly career-ending. It was also the most alive she'd felt in years. Outside her office, the whispers continued, but Naomi didn't hear them anymore. She had work to do. Do you think Naomi's making the right call? Or is this about to blow up in her face? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you're invested in this story, hit subscribe, 'cause things are about to get really complicated. Tuesday arrived with rain. Not the romantic movie montage kind of rain, but the cold, punishing October downpour that turned Manhattan's sidewalks into obstacle courses and made everyone mean. Naomi arrived at the office soaked despite her umbrella. Her hair was damp, her shoes squeaked against the marble floor, and her carefully chosen outfit, a charcoal pantsuit that said "Untouchable Professional," was spotted with rain. She didn't care. She had bigger problems. The email from a friend had metastasized overnight. What started as office gossip had evolved into something more systematic, more deliberate. Someone had created a fake social media account, posted the photo of her and Lucas with a caption, "When your performance review includes after-hours benefits." It had been shared 47 times before Naomi even saw it. She sat in her office, staring at her laptop screen, feeling something cold and sharp settle in her chest. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was character assassination. Her phone rang. "Jenna. Please tell me you've seen it." Jenna said without preamble. "I've seen it." Naomi. "This is bad. People are—" "I know what people are saying. No, I mean people are actually believing it." Rachel from HR asked me this morning if you and Lucas have been dating for months. Months, Naomi. They're rewriting your entire career as some sort of sleeping to the top narrative. Naomi closed her eyes. I need to go. Wait, lunch today. I'm not asking. Jenna, 12:30, the cafe on 53rd. I'm buying, you're talking, and we're figuring this out. The line went dead. Naomi set her phone down and pulled up her calendar. The executive meeting was tomorrow. She needed to finalize her presentation, review the financial projections, prepare for the inevitable questions about market volatility and risk management. She needed to do her job. But first, she needed to do something else. She pulled up her personal email and composed a message to an old friend from business school. Kira Chen had gone into digital, forensics, helping companies track down corporate espionage and information leaks. Need a favor. Can you trace a social media account? Urgent. The reply came within minutes. Send me everything you have. I'll see what I can do. Naomi forwarded the screenshots, the metadata, everything she'd collected. Then she opened her work files and lost herself in numbers. Numbers didn't lie. Numbers didn't whisper. Numbers didn't care who you had dinner with. Numbers made sense. At 11:45, there was a knock on her office door. Come in, Naomi called, not looking up from her screen. The door opened. Footsteps, the soft click of it closing again. You missed the morning briefing. Naomi's head snapped up. Lucas stood in her office, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. She glanced at her door. Closed, but anyone walking past could see through the glass panel. See him in her office, alone, again. I had work to do, she said carefully. So I gathered. He moved, closer, stopping in front of her desk. You're researching Marianne. It wasn't a question. How did you? Because I'm doing the same thing. Lucas pulled out his phone and set it on her desk. On the screen was a document, a detailed timeline of every person who'd been promoted or transferred out of the company over the past 3 years. Notice a pattern? Naomi scanned the list. Her analytical mind started processing immediately. 7 women, all in their late 20s to mid-30s, all high performers, all suddenly transferred to satellite offices or quietly encouraged to pursue other opportunities within 6 months of working closely with Lucas. She's been doing this for years, Naomi said quietly. Yes, you knew. I suspected, but I couldn't prove it. Marianne is meticulous. Every transfer had a reasonable explanation. Better opportunities, family obligations, career advancement. He paused. I thought I was being paranoid, seeing patterns that weren't there. But now? Now she's gone after you. And you're not going quietly. Naomi looked up at him. Did the others go quietly? Something dark crossed Lucas's face. They didn't have a choice. Marianne made sure their reputations were damaged just enough that staying became uncomfortable. And you let her. The accusation hung in the air. Lucas didn't flinch. Yes, I did. Because Marianne might be a pain in the behind, but she gets things done and this company needs her. Besides, I didn't have proof. And going after her without proof would have destroyed me and helped no one. He leaned forward, palms flat on her desk. But I'm not letting her do it again. Not to you. Why? The question came out sharper than she intended. Why me? Why now? Lucas was quiet for a long moment. Rain streaked down the window behind him, blurring the city into watercolor abstracts. Because you're different, he said finally. The others were talented, yes, competent. But they played the game. They understood office politics and power dynamics. They knew when to push and when to retreat. His eyes met hers. You don't play games, Naomi. You don't retreat. You see a problem and you solve it, consequences be damned. That's rare. That's valuable. A pause. That's dangerous. Dangerous to who? To people like Marianne, who survive by controlling information and managing perceptions. You can't be controlled, so you have to be eliminated. Naomi sat back in her chair, processing. She's not going to stop. No. The social media post, the whispers, this is just the beginning. Probably. So what do we do? Lucas straightened. We become very, very careful. We don't give her any ammunition. We maintain absolute professionalism, and we gather evidence until we have enough to bury her so deep she'll never surface. And Thursday? Naomi asked quietly. His expression softened slightly. Thursday still happens, but we're smart about it. We're discreet, and we accept that this, he gestured between them, might be the riskiest thing either of us has ever done. Before Naomi could respond, her office phone rang. She picked it up. Naomi Hart. Ms. Hart. The voice was cool, professional, female. This is Claire Dunham from HR. I need you to come to my office, now please. Naomi's stomach dropped. May I ask what this is regarding? I'd prefer to discuss it in person. The line went dead. Naomi looked at Lucas. HR wants to see me. His jaw tightened. Don't go alone. I have to. Then don't say anything without a lawyer present. Lucas, I'm serious, Naomi. Marianne has been building her case. Whatever Claire wants, it's not going to be friendly. Naomi stood, smoothing her suit jacket. I haven't done anything wrong. That doesn't matter, not in situations like this. She looked at him for a long moment. In the gray light filtering through the rain-streaked windows, he looked older, tired, like a man who'd fought this battle before and lost. I'll be fine, she said. She walked past him, opened her door, and headed toward the elevator. She could feel eyes following her the entire way. Claire Dunham's office was on the 38th floor, in a section of the building that always felt too quiet, too sterile, like a hospital where careers went to die. Naomi had been here once before, during her initial hiring process 5 years ago. The decor hadn't changed. Beige walls, generic corporate art, a desk that looked like it came from a catalog titled Intimidating Office Furniture. Claire sat behind that desk, her expression professionally neutral. She was in her 50s, with steel-gray hair cut in a severe bob and reading glasses that she wore on a chain around her neck. Ms. Hart, please, sit. Naomi sat. Claire folded her hands on the desk. I'm sure you know why you're here. I'd prefer to hear it from you. A slight tightening around Claire's mouth, the only indication that Naomi's response wasn't what she'd expected. We've received complaints, Claire said carefully, about your relationship with Mr. Arden. I don't have a relationship with Mr. Arden. I work for him. Several employees have expressed concern about favoritism, inappropriate conduct, conflicts of interest. Based on what evidence? Claire pulled out a folder. Inside were printouts, the photo from the restaurant, screenshots of the social media post, and something else. Something that made Naomi's blood run cold. Her text messages with Lucas. Can't stop thinking about Friday night. Me neither. Have dinner with me. Thursday. Yes. Where did you get those? Naomi's voice was steady, but her mind was racing. Her phone was password protected, encrypted. There was no way. An anonymous source provided them, Claire said, along with allegations that you've been using your personal relationship with Mr. Arden to advance your career. That's not true. Then, how do you explain these messages? Naomi looked at the printouts. At her own words, stripped of context, weaponized against her. She thought about Lucas's warning. Don't say anything without a lawyer. She thought about the 7 women before her who'd gone quietly. She thought about Marianne Bell's cold smile. And she made a choice. I explained them, Naomi said slowly, by pointing out that private text messages between 2 consenting adults are not company business. I explained them by noting that nothing in those messages violates company policy. And I explained them by asking how you obtained private communications without a warrant or my consent, which may actually be illegal depending on how they were acquired. Claire's expression flickered. Ms. Hart, I've worked here for 5 years. My performance reviews are flawless. My project outcomes exceed targets consistently. My promotions have been merit-based and documented. Naomi leaned forward. If you want to investigate. Me? Investigate my work. But don't pretend that gossip and stolen text messages constitute evidence of wrongdoing. The optics are that a successful woman is being targeted because someone finds her relationship status more interesting than her actual performance. Which, I should point out, is exactly the kind of gender discrimination the company claims to oppose. Silence. Claire removed her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. Off the record, Ms. Hart, you're not wrong, but politics in this company are complicated. Your recent actions have intense consequences, and I can only protect you so much. I'm not asking for protection. I'm asking for fairness. In my experience, those aren't always the same thing. Claire slid the folder back across her desk. I'm going to file this as an unsubstantiated complaint, but I'm also going to recommend that you and Mr. Arden maintain strictly professional interactions for the foreseeable future. No texts, no dinners, nothing that could be misconstrued. And if I refuse, then I can't help you when this escalates, and it will escalate. Naomi stood. Thank you for your time, Ms. Dunham. She walked out of the office with her head high, her hands steady, her heart pounding like a war drum. She made it to the elevator before pulling out her phone. We need to talk. Not at the office. Lucas's reply was immediate. Where? Your place. Tonight. A longer pause this time. Then, 8 p.m. I'll send a car. Naomi deleted the messages quickly, pocketed her phone, and stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, she caught a glimpse of Marianne Bell standing at the end of the hallway, watching her with an expression that might have been satisfaction. Or maybe it was fear. Naomi couldn't tell which, but she was about to find out. The rest of Tuesday passed in a blur of work and whispers. Naomi attended meetings, reviewed contracts, responded to emails with mechanical efficiency. She did not break. She did not hide. She did not give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her rattle. But inside, her mind was racing. Someone had accessed her phone, copied her messages, violated her privacy in a way that was probably illegal but definitely effective. The only question was, how? At 6:30, her personal email pinged. Kira Chen found something. The social media account was created using a burner email, but whoever set it up made a mistake. They logged in once from their work IP address. I've got a location trace if you want it. Naomi's pulse quickened. Send it. 30 seconds later, a map appeared on her screen. A red pin marked the exact location where the account had been accessed. Arden Global Enterprises, 41st floor, northeast corner. Marianne Bell's office. Naomi sat back in her chair, staring at the screen. She had her proof. Now she just needed to decide what to do with it. Her phone buzzed. Lucas. Cars. Outside. Naomi grabbed her coat and her laptop bag. As she walked through the office toward the elevator, she felt the weight of dozens of eyes. Let them look, she thought. She had nothing to hide. The car waiting for her was a black Mercedes with tinted windows and a driver who didn't ask questions. It pulled away from the curb smoothly, merging into the evening traffic with practiced ease. Naomi watched the city slide past. Lights and rain and a million anonymous lives unfolding in parallel. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was an unknown number. A message with no text, just a photo. Her, leaving the building, getting into Lucas's car. Below it, a single line. Careful, Ms. Hart. People are watching. Naomi stared at the image, her blood running cold. This wasn't just about destroying her reputation anymore. This was about control. And she was done being controlled. She deleted the message, powered off her phone, and settled back into the leather seat. Her heart couldn't stop beating loudly. The wisest decision of her career right now should be to turn this car around and head straight to her house. But she sat still and did nothing. By the time the car pulled up to Lucas's building, a converted warehouse in Tribeca with industrial windows and the kind of security that screamed, "A billionaire lives here," she'd made her decision. She was going to end this. Tonight. Lucas's apartment was nothing like Naomi expected. She'd imagined cold minimalism, glass and steel, and the kind of impersonal luxury that screamed interior designer was given a blank check. Instead, she walked into warmth. Exposed brick walls, hardwood floors worn smooth by time, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves packed with actual books, not the color-coordinated kind rich people bought by the yard, but real books with cracked spines and dog-eared pages. A leather couch that looked like it had been sat in, lived in, windows overlooking the Hudson, rain streaming down the glass like tears. "This is not what I expected," Naomi said, setting her laptop bag down. Lucas closed the door behind her. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves. He looked less like a billionaire CEO and more like a man who was tired of playing the part. "What did you expect?" "Something more sterile, less human." A small smile. "I saved the sterile for the office. Here, I get to be myself." He gestured toward the kitchen. "Wine? Coffee? Something stronger." "Information," Naomi said. "I need information." The smile faded. "What happened with HR?" "Marianne gave them my text messages. Someone accessed my phone, copied our conversation, and handed it over like evidence at a trial." Lucas's expression went dark. "That's illegal." "So is character assassination, but here we are." Naomi pulled out her laptop and set it on the coffee table. "But I've got something better than accusations. I've got proof." She opened the screen and pulled up Kira's email. The map, the IP trace, the timestamp showing exactly when and where the social media account had been created. Lucas studied it for a long moment, his jaw tight. "Marianne's office," he said quietly. "Yes. This is solid. Solid enough. The account was created from her computer during business hours, using the company network." Naomi pulled up another file. "And that's not all. I cross-referenced the building access logs with the timing of every anonymous email, every leaked photo, every social media post. Marianne was in the building every single time, same floor, same time window." "Circumstantial," Lucas said, but there was something like admiration in his voice. "Individually, yes, but together." Naomi pulled up a third document. The timeline Lucas had shown her earlier, the 7 women who'd been pushed out. "I reached out to 3 of them. They all reported the same pattern. Anonymous harassment, whisper campaigns, HR meetings based on concerns that were never substantiated. And, in each case, the harassment started within days of them working closely with you on high-profile projects." Lucas was quiet for a long moment. He moved to the windows, staring out at the rain-soaked city. "Marianne!" He cursed under his breath. "We dated a few years back, when this company was barely starting," he revealed, his words dropping like bombshell. Naomi couldn't believe what she just heard, couldn't believe that for the past few days, she had been a victim of a jealous ex. "Even though we didn't work out, she was good for business, so I kept her close. I should have stopped her years ago," he said finally, a hint of guilt in his voice. "You didn't have proof." "I had suspicions. That should have been enough." "Suspicions aren't evidence. You would have destroyed yourself trying to take her down without it." He turned to face her. "And now we have evidence. Now we go to the board." "The board loves Marianne. She's been managing the company's image. For a decade. She knows every board member personally, their families, their secrets." Lucas shook his head. "They won't want to believe it. Then we make them believe it." "How?" Naomi closed her laptop. "Tomorrow's executive meeting. I present my quarterly analysis. You present the strategic forecast, and then we present this." She tapped the laptop. "In front of everyone. No private conversations, no quiet removals. We make it public, documented, and impossible to ignore." Lucas stared at her. That's nuclear, Naomi. You'll make enemies. I already have enemies. At least this way, I control the narrative. Marianne will fight back. She'll throw everything she has at you. Let her. Naomi stood, moving closer to him. I'm done being careful. I'm done letting people like her win because good people are too afraid to fight back. She's been destroying careers for years, and the only reason she's gotten away with it is because everyone's too scared to stand up to her. I'm not scared of her, Lucas said quietly. She works for me. Then prove it. Stand with me tomorrow. Their eyes met. The space between them felt charged, electric. If we do this, Lucas said slowly, there's no going back. Win or lose, everything changes. I know. Your career could be over. Or it could finally begin. Naomi took a breath. I didn't come to Arden Global to play it safe, Lucas. I came here to build something, to matter. And I'm not going to let someone like Marianne Bell take that from me because she's afraid of competition. Lucas studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Okay, he said. We do it your way. Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by terror. She'd just committed to professional warfare against one of the most powerful people in the company. Lucas must have seen something in her expression because he moved closer. You're sure about this? No, Naomi admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. That's possibly the bravest thing I've ever heard. Or the stupidest. Sometimes those are the same thing. He was close enough now that she could feel the heat of him. For what it's worth, I think you're going to win. Why? Because you're smarter than her. More thorough, more honest. A pause. And because you have something she'll never understand. What's that? People who actually believe in you. His hand came up, almost touching her face, then dropped. I believe in you, Naomi. The words hit her harder than she expected. When was the last time someone had said that? When was the last time she'd let herself want someone to? Lucas. I know. Wrong time, wrong place. Everything about this is complicated. He stepped back, putting distance between them. But after tomorrow, when this is over, I want to take you to dinner. A real dinner. Where we don't hide, where we don't apologize, where we figure out if this thing between us is real or just adrenaline and proximity. Naomi's heart was racing. And if it's real, then we deal with it. Together. Honestly. He smiled, but there was something vulnerable in it. I've spent 10 years building this company, making it successful, but I've been alone the entire time. I'm tired of being alone, Naomi. I'm tired of surrounding myself with people who want something from me instead of just wanting me. She should have been more careful, should have kept the walls up, maintained the professional distance. Instead, she closed the space between them and kissed him. It was brief, soft, a question more than an answer. When she pulled back, his eyes were dark. When all this is over, she said quietly, when we've won, ask me again. Oh, we're really doing this now. Comment Team Naomi if you're rooting for her to absolutely destroy Marianne tomorrow. Like if that kiss made your heart race. And subscribe because the board meeting is about to be legendary. Naomi left Lucas's apartment at 10:30. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflecting the city lights like scattered diamonds. The car dropped her at her building in Brooklyn, a fourth-floor walk-up that suddenly felt very small and very far from Tribeca. She climbed the stairs, unlocked her door, and stepped into her apartment. Someone was sitting on her couch. Naomi's scream caught in her throat as the figure stood, hands raised. Don't freak out! It's me! Jenna. Naomi's hand flew to her chest, her heart hammering. What the hell, Jenna? How did you get in here? Spare key, which you gave me for emergencies. Jenna's expression was serious. This qualifies. You couldn't have called. You turned your phone off. And after what I found out today, I needed to tell you in person. Naomi's pulse was still racing, but now for a different reason. Found out what? Jenna pulled out her phone and pulled up a video. This was posted an hour ago. Anonymous account. Already has 20,000 views. She hit play. The video was grainy, shot from a distance with a telephoto lens. It showed Naomi getting into the black Mercedes outside Arden Global. Then it cut to her entering Lucas's building in Tribeca, then leaving 2 hours later. The caption, "Executive meetings at the boss's penthouse. Wonder what they're discussing." The comments section was vicious. Naomi felt sick. "There's more," Jenna said quietly. She swiped to another post. This one was a photo of Naomi's employee file. Her performance reviews, her promotion history, her salary increases. All stamped with confidential in red letters. Beside each promotion was a note in red ink. Recommended by L. Arden. The implication was clear. Every achievement, every advancement, every success was because of Lucas. Not her work, not her talent, just his favor. "How did they get my personnel file?" Naomi's voice came out hollow. "That's the scary part. Those files are supposed to be encrypted, restricted access, HR, and senior executives only." Jenna paused. "Whoever's doing this has high-level clearance." Marianne. "Has to be, but Naomi." Jenna's expression was pained. "It's working. People are believing it. The comments, the shares, this is going viral inside the company. By tomorrow morning, every employee will have seen this." Naomi sat down heavily on her couch. The presentation she'd been so confident about, the evidence she'd gathered, the plan to expose Marianne in front of the board. Suddenly it all felt like walking into an ambush. Marianne had known, had anticipated, had gotten ahead of the story. "What do I do?" Naomi asked quietly. Jenna sat beside her. "You have 2 options. 1, you go to the meeting tomorrow, present your evidence, and hope the board believes you over their director of communications who's been with them for 10 years. 2, you don't go. You call in sick. You give yourself time to figure out a better strategy. If I don't go, I look guilty. If you do go, you might get destroyed." Naomi thought about Lucas, about their plan, about the 7 women before her who'd gone quietly because fighting back seemed impossible. She thought about that kiss, about after tomorrow, about the possibility of something real. She pulled out her phone and powered it on. 17 missed calls, 43 texts, most from numbers she didn't recognize. One from Lucas. "I saw the video. Don't respond to anything. We stick to the plan." Another from Lucas, sent 5 minutes ago. "Whatever you're thinking right now, don't quit, don't hide. Show up tomorrow and fight. I'll be right there with you." Naomi stared at the message for a long moment. Then she looked at Jenna. "I'm going." "Naomi, I'm going, because if I don't, she wins. She gets to destroy my reputation, my career, everything I've built, and I don't even get to defend myself." Naomi stood. "No, I'm done letting people like Marianne Bell decide my future." Jenna studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Okay, then let's make sure you're ready." They spent the next 2 hours preparing. Jenna helped Naomi refine her presentation, anticipate questions, prepare for every possible attack. They rehearsed until Naomi's voice was hoarse and her eyes burned with exhaustion. At 1 in the morning, Jenna finally left. Naomi stood in her apartment, alone, staring at her reflection in the darkened window. Tomorrow would either be her vindication or her destruction. There was no middle ground anymore. She picked up her phone and sent one message to Lucas. "See you tomorrow." His reply was immediate. "You've got this." Naomi set her phone down and went to bed. She didn't sleep. Wednesday morning arrived cold and clear. Naomi, dressed in her armor, a black suit, tailored perfectly, with a white silk blouse and heels that added 3 inches to her height. She pulled her hair back into a sleek bun. No jewelry except small diamond studs. A gift from her mother, when she'd graduated business school. She looked like someone who meant business. She felt like someone about to walk into a firing squad. The subway ride to Midtown felt endless. Every person who glanced at her phone made Naomi wonder if they'd seen the video. Every whispered conversation felt like it was about her. By the time she walked into Arden Global Enterprises, her stomach was in knots. The lobby was unusually crowded. People clustered in groups, voices low. When Naomi walked past, conversations stopped. Eyes followed her to the elevator. She kept her head high and her expression neutral. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt like ascending to the gallows. When the doors opened, she stepped out into chaos. The executive meeting had been moved to the main boardroom, the one reserved for shareholder presentations and major announcements, the one with glass walls that let everyone in the office watch what was happening inside. Naomi's heels clicked against the marble as she walked toward it. Through the glass, she could see them, the board members, the senior executives, the department heads, 20 people who would decide her fate. And at the head of the table, calm and collected, sat Marianne Bell. Lucas stood near the windows, arms crossed, expression unreadable. When he saw Naomi approach, something shifted in his face. Not quite a smile, more like recognition, like a soldier seeing a fellow warrior take the field. Naomi opened the boardroom door and stepped inside. "Ms. Hart." Elliot Royce, the board chair, gestured to an empty seat. "Please, join us." Naomi sat. She pulled out her laptop, connected it to the presentation screen, and met Marianne's eyes across the table. Marianne smiled. It was the smile of someone who thought they'd already won. Naomi smiled back. "Good morning, everyone," Elliot said. "I believe we have a full agenda today. Ms. Hart, you're presenting the quarterly financial analysis?" "Yes, sir." "Excellent. But before we begin—" He glanced at Marianne. "Ms. Bell has raised some concerns that need to be addressed. Concerns about conflicts of interest and professional conduct that may impact the integrity of today's presentation." Here it comes, Naomi thought. "Mr. Royce," Marianne said smoothly, "I hate to make this personal, but given the recent allegations about Ms. Hart's relationship with Mr. Arden, I think it's appropriate for the board to consider whether her analysis might be compromised." Murmurs around the table. "Compromised how?" Naomi asked calmly. Marianne's smile sharpened. "Well, when someone's career advancement is tied to personal relationships rather than merit, it raises questions about objectivity, about whether their work can be trusted. Are you suggesting my work is unreliable? I'm suggesting that perception matters. And the perception right now is that you've been using your relationship with Mr. Arden to advance your position in this company." Naomi let the words hang in the air for a moment. Then she opened her laptop. "You're absolutely right, Ms. Bell," she said quietly. "Perception does matter, which is why I think we should examine all the perceptions in this room." She pulled up her first slide. "For the past 3 days, I've been the target of a systematic harassment campaign. Anonymous emails, stolen text messages, leaked personnel files, social media posts designed to destroy my professional reputation." She advanced to the next slide. "The IP trace. I've also been investigating who's behind it." Marianne's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "This," Naomi continued, "is a digital forensics report showing that the anonymous social media account was created from a computer on the 41st floor of this building. The timestamp corresponds exactly with Ms. Bell's office hours." She advanced again. "Timeline. Access logs. Patterns. This shows a pattern of similar harassment targeting 7 other women over the past 3 years. All high performers. All pushed out of the company shortly after working closely with Mr. Arden. All subjected to the exact same tactics being used against me now." The room had gone completely silent. "And this," she pulled up the final slide, "is a communication I received last night. My confidential personnel file leaked to a public forum. A file that only 3 people in this company have access to." She paused. "Mr. Arden, Claire Dunham in HR, and Marianne Bell." Every eye in the room turned to Marianne. "This is ridiculous," Marianne said, but her voice had lost its smoothness. This is a desperate attempt to deflect from what? Naomi cut her off. From a relationship that doesn't violate any company policy? From work that speaks for itself? From the fact that you've been systematically eliminating anyone you perceive as a threat to your position? That's defamation. It's documentation. Naomi's voice was steel. I have copies of everything, timestamps, metadata, witness statements from the women you pushed out, all of it backed up, notarized, and ready to be reviewed by an independent investigator. She closed her laptop. So yes, Ms. Bell, perception matters. And right now, the perception is that you've been running a targeted harassment campaign for years, and you're only being exposed because you finally went after someone who fought back. The silence that followed was absolute. Elliot Royce looked at Marianne. Ms. Bell, do you have a response? Marianne's face had gone pale. This is all circumstantial. Correlation isn't causation. Just because my computer was used doesn't mean your password-protected computer, Naomi said quietly. During hours when you were the only person with access to your office. With additional evidence from building security showing no one else entered your workspace during the relevant time frames. Marianne opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. For the first time in her career at Arden Global Enterprises, she had nothing to say. Lucas stepped forward. Mr. Royce, he said quietly, I move that we suspend this meeting and convene an emergency session to review Ms. Hart's evidence. I also move that Ms. Bell be placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. Seconded, said another board member. Elliot Royce looked around the table. All in favor. Every hand went up. Ms. Bell, Elliot said heavily, please collect your personal effects and leave the building. HR will be in touch regarding the investigation. Marianne stood slowly. She looked at Naomi, and for just a moment, the mask slipped completely. What Naomi saw underneath wasn't hatred. It was fear. Marianne walked out of the boardroom without another word. Through the glass walls, the entire office watched her leave. Naomi sat very still, her hands folded on the table, her heart hammering so hard she thought everyone could hear it. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Elliot cleared his throat. Ms. Hart, I believe you had a presentation prepared? Naomi looked up at him, then at Lucas, who was watching her with something that looked like pride. She opened her laptop again. Yes, sir, she said. The quarterly financial analysis. Shall we begin? The meeting lasted another 90 minutes. Naomi presented her quarterly analysis with the same precision and clarity she always brought to her work. The numbers were solid. The projections conservative but optimistic. The risk assessments thorough. No one questioned her competence. No one suggested her work was compromised. When she finished, Elliot Royce nodded approvingly. Excellent work, Ms. Hart, as always. As always. Those two words felt like vindication. The board moved on to other business. Budget allocations, strategic initiatives, market positioning. Naomi contributed when appropriate, her voice steady, her mind sharp. But inside, she was shaking. When the meeting finally adjourned, people filed out slowly. Several board members stopped to shake her hand, murmur words of support. One older woman, Patricia Chen, who'd been on the board for 15 years, squeezed her shoulder. That took courage, Patricia said quietly. More than most people have. Don't let them make you regret it. Then she was gone, leaving Naomi standing alone in the now empty boardroom. Almost alone. Lucas remained by the windows, his back to her, staring out at the city. Naomi gathered her laptop, her notes, her composure. You should go home, Lucas said without turning around. I have work to do. Naomi, I'm not hiding, not after this. He turned to face her then. His expression was complicated. Relief and pride, and something that looked like worry. You just made a very powerful enemy, he said quietly. I know. Marianne has allies, friends in high places. She won't accept this quietly. I know that too. Lucas moved closer. So why are you still here? Because if I leave now, it looks like I'm running. Like I'm ashamed. Naomi lifted her chin. I'm not ashamed. I did my job. I defended myself. I exposed corruption. Those are things to be proud of, not hide from. Something shifted in his expression. The worry fading, replaced by something warmer. You're remarkable, he said softly. I'm stubborn. Those aren't mutually exclusive. He paused. The board wants to conduct a full investigation. They'll be interviewing everyone. The women who left, current employees, anyone who might have information about Marianne's activities. How long will that take? Weeks, maybe months. It'll be thorough, invasive. They'll ask questions about you, about me, about our relationship. His eyes held hers. They'll want to know if what Marianne said was true. If you got ahead because of me. My work speaks for itself. I know, but they'll still ask. Lucas took a breath. Which is why I'm recusing myself from any decisions involving your career going forward. Promotions, evaluations, project assignments, all of it will go through Elliot and the board directly. Naomi's chest tightened. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do, because I meant what I said last night. I want this to be real, and if it's going to be real, it has to be clean. No conflicts, no questions. No one gets to say you succeeded because of who you're involved with. The vulnerability in his voice undid something in her. After all this is over, Naomi said quietly, when the investigation is complete and the dust has settled, ask me to dinner again. And you'll say yes? I'll say yes. They stood there for a moment, 3 feet apart, an entire boardroom table between them. Then Lucas smiled, a real smile, small and genuine. I should let you get back to work. You should. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. Naomi, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Then he was gone. Naomi stood alone in the boardroom, surrounded by glass walls, feeling like she was standing in the center of an aquarium with the entire company watching. She picked up her laptop and walked back to her office. The rest of Wednesday was surreal. People stopped her in the hallways, some to offer support, others just to stare. The whispers had changed texture. Instead of malicious gossip, they'd become something else. Curiosity, respect, caution. Naomi Hart had just taken down Marianne Bell. People weren't sure what that meant yet, but they knew it meant something. Jenna appeared at lunchtime with sandwiches and an expression of stunned disbelief. You're insane, she said, closing Naomi's office door behind her. Completely, absolutely insane. Hello to you too. I watched the whole thing through the glass. Everyone did. The entire office was glued to those windows. Jenna set the sandwiches down. Naomi, you just became a legend. Or a cautionary tale. Possibly both. I'm hoping for legend. Are you okay? Really okay? Naomi considered the question. Was she okay? She just engaged in corporate warfare, exposed systematic harassment, and essentially painted a target on her back. Her relationship with her boss was now under investigation. Her personnel file was public knowledge. Her privacy had been violated in ways she was still processing. I don't know, she said honestly. Ask me in a month. Jenna studied her. You love him, don't you? Lucas. The question caught Naomi off guard. I don't know what you're talking about. That's not the answer I was expecting. Jenna pouted. Naomi was quiet for a long moment. I think I could, she said finally. Love him, if we had the chance, if all of this wasn't in the way. So clear it out of the way. I'm trying. Jenna reached across the desk and squeezed her hand. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Marianne was a nightmare. Someone needed to stop her. But be careful. People like her don't go quietly. And she still has friends in this company. As if summoned by the warning, there was a knock on Naomi's door. Claire Dunham stood in the doorway, her expression carefully neutral. Miss Hart, may I have a moment? Jenna stood, gathering the sandwiches. "I'll let you two talk." She left, closing the door behind her. Claire remained standing. "I wanted to apologize." Naomi blinked. "For what?" "For yesterday, for not believing you, for treating you like a problem instead of listening to what you were trying to tell me." Claire's professional mask cracked slightly. "I've been in HR for 20 years. I should have seen what Marianne was doing. I should have protected those women. I didn't. That's on me. You were doing your job. My job is to protect employees, not cover for people who hurt them." Claire paused. "The board has asked me to lead the internal investigation. I want you to know that I'll be thorough, fair, and if there are others who were hurt by Marianne's actions, I'll make sure they get justice too." "Thank you. I also want you to know," Claire hesitated, choosing her words carefully, "that your work here has always been exceptional. Regardless of who recommended your promotions, you earned them. Your performance reviews reflect that. I hope you know that." The words settled something in Naomi's chest that she hadn't realized was unsettled. "I appreciate that," she said quietly. Claire nodded and left. Naomi sat alone in her office, staring at her computer screen, trying to process everything that had happened in the past 72 hours. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Her stomach dropped, but when she opened it, it wasn't a threat. It wasn't a leaked photo or a veiled warning. It was a message from one of the women, Sarah Mitchell, who'd left the company 2 years ago. "I heard what you did. Thank you. I wish I'd been brave enough to fight back. You're a hero." Then another message. From Rachel Kim, another name on the list. "Thank you for doing what I couldn't. You saved other women from going through what we did." Then another and another. 5 messages, 6, 7. Women she'd never met, thanking her for something they should never have needed to thank anyone for. Naomi set her phone down and let herself feel it. The weight of what she'd done, the women she'd helped, the system she'd challenged. And for the first time since Friday night, she cried. Not from fear or stress or exhaustion, from relief. Sometimes winning doesn't feel like victory right away. It feels like release. If this moment hit you in the feels, drop a comment. And if you're wondering what happens next between Naomi and Lucas now that the dust is settling, hit that subscribe button if you haven't. The rest of the week passed in a strange calm. Marianne didn't return to the office. According to official communication, she'd taken a leave of absence pending the investigation. According to office gossip, she'd already hired a lawyer. The investigation itself was quiet but thorough. Claire interviewed people one by one. The board brought in an external firm to review digital evidence. Slowly, carefully, they built their case. Naomi went back to work. She prepared reports, attended meetings, managed her projects. She maintained the same level of excellence she always had. People watched her differently now, some with respect, some with wariness, some with curiosity. She didn't care. She'd stopped caring what people thought somewhere between the leaked photos and the boardroom confrontation. Lucas maintained his distance. Professional. Appropriate. They exchanged emails about work matters, attended the same meetings but never spoke privately. It was necessary, smart, the right thing to do. It was also torture. Thursday came and went. The dinner they'd planned never happened. Instead, Naomi worked late and went home to her empty apartment. Friday afternoon, she received an email from Elliot Royce requesting a meeting. She arrived at his office at 4 o'clock sharp. Elliot sat behind his desk, silver-haired and distinguished, looking every bit the seasoned board chair he was. "Ms. Hart, please sit." Naomi sat. "I wanted to update you on the investigation. We've completed the preliminary review." He folded his hands on his desk. "The evidence you provided was substantial and verifiable. We've confirmed that Marianne Bell was indeed behind the harassment campaign, not just against you, but against 6 other employees over the past 3 years. Naomi's breath caught. 6. Not 7. 1 less than they'd thought. "What happens now?" she asked. "Marianne has been terminated. effective immediately. We're also reviewing our policies around harassment and workplace conduct to ensure this doesn't happen again. Elliot paused. Several board members wanted me to convey their appreciation for your courage in bringing this forward. I was just protecting myself. You were protecting everyone. There's a difference. Elliot leaned back in his chair. I also wanted to discuss your future here at Arden Global. Naomi's stomach tightened. Here it comes, the part where they thank her for her service and politely suggest she'd be happier elsewhere. Your work has been exemplary, Elliot continued. Your handling of this situation showed judgment, intelligence, and integrity. Those are qualities we value, which is why the board would like to offer you a promotion. Naomi blinked. I'm sorry? Director of Strategic Analysis. Reporting directly to the executive committee. Substantial raise, full benefits, and a seat at the table for all major strategic decisions. Elliot smiled slightly. It's a position we've been looking to fill for months. You're the obvious choice. But the investigation? My relationship with Lucas. Mr. Arden has recused himself from this decision entirely. This offer comes from the board, based solely on your professional merit. Elliot's expression grew serious. Ms. Hart, I'm going to be blunt. What happened with Marianne was a failure of leadership. We should have caught it sooner. We should have protected our employees better. We can't undo that, but we can do better going forward. And having people like you in positions of authority helps ensure we do. Naomi sat very still, processing. A promotion, director level, based on merit. Everything she'd worked for, everything she'd been accused of getting through favoritism. And now it was being offered to her, cleanly, by people who weren't Lucas. I'd be honored to accept, she said quietly. Elliot smiled. Excellent. We'll make it official Monday. Congratulations, Ms. Hart. She stood, shook his hand, and walked out of his office in a daze, Director of Strategic Analysis. She'd won, actually, really won. She made it to the elevator before pulling out her phone. I have news, she texted Lucas. Good news. His response was immediate. Tell me. In person. Tonight. A longer pause this time, then, my place, 7 o'clock, I'll cook. Naomi smiled. See you then. She rode the elevator down to the lobby, walked out into the Friday evening chaos of Manhattan, and for the first time in a week, let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. Naomi stood outside Lucas's building at 6:58, staring at the intercom button like it might explode. She'd changed 3 times before leaving her apartment, settled on dark jeans, a cream cashmere sweater, and boots. Not a date outfit, not a business outfit, something in between, something honest. Her finger hovered over the button. This was it. The moment everything either became real or fell apart. She pressed it. Come up. Lucas's voice crackled through the speaker. The door buzzed open. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt endless. Naomi checked her reflection in the mirrored walls, smoothed her hair, told herself to breathe. The doors opened directly into his apartment. Lucas stood in the kitchen, wearing jeans and a navy Henley, his sleeves pushed up to his elbows. He looked younger somehow, less like a billionaire CEO and more like a man cooking dinner on a Friday night. Hi, he said. Hi. The word hung between them, weighted with everything unsaid. Something smells amazing, Naomi managed. Risotto. I hope you like mushrooms. I do. Good. He gestured to the wine bottle on the counter. Pour yourself a glass. Red or white? Red. She moved into the kitchen, poured wine into 2 glasses, handed him one. Their fingers brushed. Neither pulled away. So, Lucas said quietly. Good news? Naomi smiled. Director of Strategic Analysis. The board offered it to me this afternoon. Something lit up in his expression. Pure, uncomplicated joy. Naomi, that's incredible. You didn't know. No, I meant what I said about recusing myself. Elliot made that decision without me. He set down his wine glass and turned to face her fully. You earned this. You know that, right? Not because of me, not because of what happened with Marianne, because you're brilliant and capable and exactly what this company needs. The words settled into her chest, warm and solid. I know, she said. And she did. Finally. Thank you for giving me the space to prove it. I didn't give you anything. You took it. He returned to the stove, stirring the risotto with practiced ease. How does it feel? Surreal. Terrifying. Right. She paused. Like everything I've been working toward for 5 years just became real. It was always real. Now everyone else just sees it too. They fell into comfortable silence, punctuated by the soft sounds of cooking. Naomi watched him work. The confidence in his movements, the care he took with each step. This was a side of Lucas Arden no one at the office would recognize. You really do cook, she said. Surprised. A little. I assumed billionaires had people for that. I do have people, but I don't like them in my space. He glanced at her. I like my space private, quiet, mine. And yet you invited me here. Yes. His eyes held hers. I did. The weight of that hung in the air between them. Lucas plated the risotto, added fresh herbs, a drizzle of truffle oil. They carried their plates to the dining table by the windows. The city sprawled below them, a million lights against the darkness. They ate in silence for a few minutes. The food was perfect, creamy and rich and complex. This is really good, Naomi said. My mother's recipe. She insisted I learn to cook before I left for college. Said any man who couldn't feed himself was useless. Smart woman. She was. Past tense. Something sad flickered across his face. She died 6 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. Me too. He took a sip of wine. She would have liked you. She didn't suffer fools, and she valued competence above everything. Sounds like someone else I know. Lucas smiled slightly. I come by it honestly. They ate in comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't need filling. Outside, the city hummed with Friday night energy. People laughing, living, existing in ways that had nothing to do with corporate warfare or office politics. When the plates were empty, Lucas refilled their wine glasses. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. Naomi's stomach tightened. Okay. The investigation cleared you completely. No conflicts of interest. No improprieties. Your promotions were all merit-based and documented. There's no shadow on your reputation. He paused. Which means there's nothing standing between us anymore. No policies, no investigations, no questions about favoritism. That's good. It is. Lucas set down his glass. Which means I need to ask you something and I need you to answer honestly. All right. Do you want this? Not the idea of this. Not the convenience or the excitement or the rebellion against people who said we shouldn't. Do you actually want me? Because I need to know before we go any further. Naomi looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who'd stood beside her during the worst week of her professional life, without trying to save her. Who'd given her space to fight her own battles while making it clear he was there if she needed him. Who'd recused himself from decisions about her career, even though it cost him influence. Who cooked risotto from his mother's recipe and valued privacy, and looked at her like she was something rare. Yes, she said simply. I want this. I want you. Not because you're powerful or successful or because you can open doors for me, but because you see me. The real me. And you don't try to change it or manage it or make it smaller. Something in his expression cracked open, relief and want, and something that looked like hope. I've been alone for a long time, Lucas said quietly. Not because I couldn't find someone, because I couldn't find someone who wanted me and not what I could give them. Everyone wants something. Access, money, status, connection. He leaned forward. You're the first person in 10 years who's never asked me for anything. That's not true. I asked you to stand with me against Marianne. No. You told me what you were going to do and gave me the choice to join you. That's different. He reached across the table, covered her hand with his. You've never needed me, Naomi. You've wanted me. There's a difference, and that difference changes everything. Naomi turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through his. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places. So what happens now? She asked. Now we do this the right way. We go on actual dates. We learn each other outside of crisis and adrenaline. We figure out if this thing between us is real or just circumstance. He paused. And we do it honestly. No hiding, no apologies. If people have questions, we answer them. If they have opinions, that's their problem. That's simple. That's simple. He smiled. Well, simple for most people. For a director and a CEO, it's slightly more complicated, but we'll figure it out. Together. Together. Naomi squeezed his hand. I'd like that. They stood simultaneously, moving around the table until there was nothing between them. Lucas's hand came up, cupped her face gently. I'm going to kiss you now, he said quietly. And when I do, it won't be because we're hiding from something or running toward something or caught up in the moment. It'll be because I want to, because you want me to, because this is real. Okay? Okay. He kissed her. It was different from the first time. Slower, deeper, more certain. It tasted like wine and trust and possibility. When they finally pulled apart, both, breathing harder, Lucas rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he said. Please, just to talk, to be here. Nothing else has to happen. Naomi nodded. They moved to the couch, curled up together under a blanket that was softer than anything Naomi had ever owned. The city glittered below them. Lucas's arm was warm around her shoulders. They talked about everything and nothing, childhoods and fears and dreams and the stupid things that made them laugh. Somewhere around midnight, Naomi's eyes started to drift closed. You're falling asleep, Lucas murmured. Long week. Want me to call you a car? No. She snuggled closer. Want to stay here, with you. His arm tightened around her. Then stay. She did. When Naomi woke, early morning light was streaming through the windows. She was still on the couch, still wrapped in Lucas's arms, still fully clothed. He was awake, watching her with an expression that made her chest tight. Morning, he said softly. Morning. She stretched slightly. What time is it? 7:30. I should go. Let you have your Saturday. Or, his hand found hers under the blanket. You could stay. We could have breakfast. We could waste the whole day doing nothing. We could start figuring out what this actually looks like. Naomi studied his face, saw the vulnerability there, the hope, the fear that she might choose the easier path of leaving. I'd like that, she said. His smile was like sunrise. They made breakfast together. Scrambled eggs and toast and coffee that was probably too expensive for Naomi to comprehend. They ate on the couch, plates balanced on their knees, talking and laughing and existing in a space that had nothing to do with Arden Global Enterprises or quarterly reports or office politics. It was easy, natural, right. Around noon, Naomi's phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. Please tell me you're alive and that last night wasn't a disaster. Naomi smiled and typed back, alive. Definitely not a disaster. Tell you everything later. She set her phone down and looked at Lucas. My best friend, Jenna, wants details about last night. What are you going to tell her? The truth. That we had dinner. That we talked. That this is real. Is it? Lucas asked quietly. Real? Naomi thought about the past week. The fear and the fighting and the victory. Thought about standing in that boardroom, knowing he was there but not needing him to save her. Thought about the way he looked at her, like she was capable of anything. Yes, she said. It's real. Lucas pulled her closer. Good, because I'm not letting you go. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other and sunlight, and the possibility of everything that came next. Outside, the city moved on. People worked and fought and loved and lost. Empires rose and fell. Stories began and ended. But inside Lucas's apartment, in this moment, Naomi Hart and Lucas Arden were just two people choosing each other. Honestly, bravely, without apology. It wasn't the end of their story. It was the beginning. 3 months later, Naomi sat in her new office, corner space, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view that reminded her every day how far she'd come. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. "Dinner tonight? That Italian place where this all started?" She smiled and typed back, "Vetriano's." Bold choice. I'm feeling bold. Besides, we have better memories to make there. 7 p.m. I'll meet you there this time. No coincidence, just us. Naomi set her phone down and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Marianne Bell was rebuilding her career at a smaller firm, her reputation permanently tarnished. And here, in this office she'd earned through nothing but her own competence. Naomi Hart was exactly where she was supposed to be. Her phone buzzed again. "By the way, I love you. Just wanted you to know before tonight." Her breath caught. They'd been dating for 3 months, taking it slow, doing it right. But some things couldn't wait. "I love you too," she typed back. "See you tonight." She set her phone down and returned to her work, smiling. The best stories she'd learned weren't about the dramatic moments. They were about the quiet victories, the honest choices, the courage to stand up not just for yourself, but for what's right. And the very best stories, they didn't end. They just kept beginning. We hope you enjoyed this video. If this story moved you, hit that like button. If you want more interesting billionaire romance stories, subscribe. And if you believe in happy endings that are earned, not given, drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.